This is the Homesteading for Beginners podcast, and I'm Mona Weathers, your homesteading mentor and coach. I'm here to encourage you to pursue your homesteading dreams with the right mindset in a way that is healthy for you, your family, and your community. If you desire to establish a solid foundation for your homesteading journey, then you are in the right place. Join me as I share stories from the past 20 years of my own journey, as well as practical and actionable steps you can take to start and maintain a healthy homestead. Welcome to episode 5 of the Homesteading for Beginners podcast. This is part 5 of our 5-part series covering the Homesteading for Beginners checklist. If you missed the other episodes, then be sure to go back and listen to episode 1 through 4. And be sure also to listen until the very end of this podcast because I have a couple of special announcements you will want to know about. The last part of the checklist is the Get Coaching section, and I've included all the ways you can connect with me in this section. But in today's episode, I will be sharing some of our 20-year homesteading story and what qualifies me to be your mentor and coach. My dream from the time I was a little girl was to live this type of lifestyle. I was most interested in the animals and farm life, but when I became a parent, the desire to homestead became about the health of my family and not just like cuddling with animals, farm animals. I saw the homesteading lifestyle as a way for my husband and I to provide the best for our kids. I wasn't raised on a homestead, but my husband was, though his parents didn't call it homesteading. He basically lived the childhood I dreamed about. In 2002, we started our homesteading journey on 2.5 acres in the mountains of southern central California. It's a little town, it's a little-ish city called Tehachapi. We loved it there. It was such a nice place. It's still such a nice place. I would still be living there if God didn't have other plans for us. On our 2.5 acres, we did a lot. We had all types of poultry, including chickens, ducks, turkey, and chucker. We raised them for meat and eggs. We also had dairy goats, and I milked them every day until my youngest was old enough to help me, and she would oftentimes give me a break from milking. But I milked consistently for every day for 7 years. I mean, that's what it felt. I probably had a few days off in between there. We had a large garden area that altogether was probably about 1/3 of an acre, maybe. I loved my garden in California. It was my refuge. I sometimes would just lay on the dirt in between the garden rows, and just soak up the sun. And I can't tell you how healing it is to touch the earth while being surrounded by food you have grown for your family. If you've not experienced it, I encourage you to try that. Just lay down in your garden if you have one. Over the 15 years we lived on our little homestead in California, the most valuable thing I grew was my mindset. The growth of character that can happen by living this lifestyle is worth more than anything else, in my opinion. A few years into my journey, I realized I was accumulating a set of skills. I learned to garden. I learned how to cook. I learned how to preserve food. I learned how to milk and make cheese. I learned processing meat birds and crocheting and knitting and about blending teas. There's lots of things that I learned. All of these skills I learned became resources I could draw from when I needed them. And suddenly it dawned on me that homesteading is about skill building. I realized that if my homestead was taken away, my skills would not be. No one can take away knowledge from us. That's just something that can't happen. My husband Joe and I thought we would live at our homestead we called Fairweathers Ranch until we were old and gray. But that's not what God had planned for us. And when we realized we had to move, I began to really lean on the truth that I discovered about my skill sets even more. It was really difficult for me to leave our homestead of 15 years. This was our children's home for so many years. Our youngest was born while we lived there. And I also had goats that had become like pets over the years, and all that invested time in my garden. It was really difficult to leave that homestead. It was hard. But I did have one thing that helped me through this, and that knowing that my skills that I learned, that I could take those with me wherever I moved to. And so we moved to Georgia. And because of job loss and the fact that our children were moving to the other side of the country, but now we are here in North Georgia, and our current farm is called Thankful Hill Farm. And there's a long story about why I called it that. I will tell you in another episode. But we're slowly building it into a more sustainable homestead. The terrain here is very different than it was in California. Much greener, obviously. Every tree we had on our property in California, we planted. Here, we are plucking out saplings like weeds because there are too many. It's just very different, but we love it. As we develop and grow Thankful Hill Farm, we are utilizing those skill sets my husband and I learned over the years. And we are realizing that we could have done things so different the first time around. Now that we're doing it over again, we can see all of the things that we keep telling ourselves that we're not going to do this time. Some of it we're successful at, some of it we're not, but we know the things that make a homestead successful just because we've experienced both the good and bad sides. So that's what I'm here for. My desire is to see you start and maintain a homestead that's not only healthy for you and your family, but will prevent you from making some of those big mistakes that we made. Some of the big mistakes include death of animals, wasted money, and wasted time. Those are things that are avoidable. Maybe not completely, but you can definitely avoid them a great deal. So I'm in the process of creating a private community in SageSpot for us. SageSpot is a new social platform that is set up completely different than any other. It's a membership-based platform where you'll be able to learn about starting and maintaining a homestead, a healthy homestead, but you'll also be able to connect with other beginner homesteaders. But not like connecting in the way that Facebook and Instagram do it. Facebook groups tend to be so big, and it's often intimidating asking questions, especially if you're a newbie. I see people ask questions all the time in some of these big Facebook groups, and there are smaller ones and better ones, but it's just different. Sometimes you get people answering they're just rude. That's all I have to say. They're just rude, or they just completely misunderstand what you're saying. So I don't even ask questions in those groups, and I've been doing it for a while. Instagram is not best for a place for community either. You can connect with individuals, but unless you're in a group chat, it's not that easy to create community. Usually people end up going somewhere else to create community if they find a group of people on Instagram. So SageSpot, on the other hand, will allow for you to do all of that. And you'll be able to have access to my homesteading resources and coaching. And my job is to help you get off on the right foot and feel confident in your decision making. So I'm not going to be there just to tell you what to do. If you want to homestead in a certain way, my job will be just to encourage you and help prevent some of the pitfalls and mistakes that you might make because of lack of experience, but always in a way that's encouraging. I just love to see you succeed in what you want to do. The launch date for the community is going to be September 16th, and right now I'm taking a founding members list, and so I will only take 25 members to be founding members, and the founding members will have some extra perks, which they include this. So I'm going to list them for you. the free Homesteading for Beginners workbook. You will have access to group coaching calls. We will have live calls that you can come and participate in. It's set up kind of like a Zoom call, but it will be within the platform. And there will also be giveaways. There's going to be some special giveaways for the first 3 months that SageSpot will actually be sponsoring. So getting in on the ground floor, getting in as a founding member, you will be more than likely to win something. You have a better chance of winning something. There'll also be one-on-one coaching sessions a month only for the founding members. That won't continue on to members past the first 25. As long as you stay as a founding member, you'll also get in for the low price of $10 a month. Now, I think I said in one of the first episodes that I want to launch you. So if you find after a few months that you do not want to be in the community anymore because you feel like you're confident in pursuing your homesteading goals, then we will send you off on a farewell. It will be a good celebration. My job is not to keep you in there just to be there unless you want to be there. So know that this $10 a month will be available to you as long as you're there, but don't feel like you have to be there if you don't feel like you needed to be there anymore. You'll have full access to my library of instructional videos and materials. So this is just a really good way to get in on the ground floor. It will be raising, after the first 25 members, I will be raising the price. I'm not sure how much yet, but at least by $7 a month. I know this is a lot for just $10 a month, but I really wanted my first members to have access to the best. And if you are a founding member, you will have the opportunity to create the space. I really believe SageSpot is going to be a very good platform for us, and I just want you to be able to create the space instead of me trying to create a space and then inviting you in. I want you to be a part of that. So I feel like the founding members really will have that opportunity the most. So right now I don't have a list of things that we'll be learning other than the Homesteading for Beginners workbook that we'll be going through, where we'll be going through step by step on starting your homesteading journey. If you've already started your journey and you just want some guidance, this is also the place for you. If you're just in the beginning stages and you just want some guidance, even if you've been doing it for 3 to 5 years, this could still be good for you as well. Go to the link in the show notes and sign up to get more information about the community. And by the way, I'm going to call the friends in my community Friendsteaders. Get it? Friendsteaders. Anyway, all community members need a name, and this is the one I came up with, so I hope you like it. Last thing I want to tell you about is something that's time sensitive. So if you're listening to this after September 25th, 2022, this is no longer available. But I've joined forces with a bunch of other creators to create this amazing homestead bundle called the Off-Grid Homestead Bundle. There are over 100 digital products in this bundle. There are courses and ebooks, including my workbook, the Homesteading for Beginners workbook. So this will be the only other place that the Homesteading for Beginners workbook will be available. So if by chance you don't want to be in the SageSpot community, but you want my workbook, you can get it this way also. You really don't want to miss this bundle. It's only $50 and for $6,000 worth of product. I'm really blown away by this list of things in this bundle. Just about every skill you'd want to learn is in here. This would be a great opportunity for you to choose some of the skills you want to learn, to start learning, like we discussed in the checklist. You can learn about container gardening, sourdough making, foraging, seed starting, chickens, growing microgreens, and worm farming. And there's actually just so much more than that. You will only have 10 days to download the ebooks and grab the course codes, and then it will be closed. But yes, you get all 100 plus products for only $50. You just have to make sure you download the things that you want. So go to the link in the show notes and sign up for the info on the bundle. And then I'll also be sending you a reminder for when it launches and links and that sort of thing. Launch date is September 16th. Okay, that's it for part 5 of our series. The next episodes, the future episodes, will be formatted a little bit differently, but I will continue to share my knowledge, stories, and encouragement. If you are enjoying this podcast, I would really appreciate it if you would take a minute to subscribe or follow. By doing this, you will be helping the podcast to be seen by more people, and I do love reading nice reviews too. Don't forget to visit healthyhomesteading.com for more information on how I can serve you. Until next week, I want you to keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep planning for your homesteading success.